Hey guys, this is Colin from Blackjack Apprenticeship, and I'm joined with RPC or RPC 80, who has been a card counter for a number of years and is on Blackjack Apprenticeship as well as other card counting forums. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Colin. It's an honor to be here.
Good. Well, why don't we start off, just share with us how long you've been counting cards.
So that's a two-part answer. 10 years will be this year. 8 of them, I would say, either professionally or semi-professionally, however you want to call it. So,
what about those other 2 years?
The other 2 years, those are kind of my starting out phase. So, the first year, honestly, I took, when I first discovered this, actually I saw the Breaking Vegas Tommy Highland video. And that's how I kind of got started. I was home and just not doing much of anything at the time. I saw that and interested me. From there, I went out and found the book, Playing Blackjack as a Business, and picked up a couple other books. And I started from there. And the first 8 months, I just read and practiced. And then after that, I actually went out and started, doing betting small amounts. Losing and somewhat winning and still doing some things wrong. But kind of the second year, it kind of came all together. And then I started getting into forums and meeting some interesting people. And they were showing me the different things I was doing wrong or weren't fully understanding about the game. And then I took another 4 months after learning some of those things and repolished my game and then went back out and played.
Okay, so that's actually, man, you stuck with it. I think probably a lot of people wouldn't have that drive to take a couple years to really perfect the craft. What do you think motivated you?
I'm a former athlete, and I just have that drive. I'm not going to let something beat me, especially something that I'm interested in. So it's just that inner drive that I've always had in life to go out and whatever I'm going to put my heart and soul to try to perfect and be the best at. So,
did you have any sort of goal when you first got into card counting?
To be honest with you, no. It was kind of like, it was just cool,
Yeah.
At the time, I was going through some personal things, and my daughter had just been born. It was just kind of like a mental stimulating exercise for me. And I really had no goals. I really had no foresight and saying I'm going to make $1 million or anything like that. I just kind of wanted to do it.
Yeah. So can you share with people a little bit of what you do for your day job?
I am a technical operations specialist for a well-known financial institution, meaning that I support high-speed technical trading.
You do what?
I'm a computer guy in layman's terms, but I'm high-speed electronic trading. So there's two types of trading. There's floor trading and there's electronic trading. Electronic trading is like your E-Trade or some of the commercial electronic brokerage that go around where you can do it yourself. And support that platform.
Okay. And you were telling me the other day that kind of enables you to get a lot of blackjack trips in. Can you explain how that works?
So the department I work in is 24/365, even on Christmas and New Year. So there's always somebody there. And it's a really good opportunity. They give us a lot of time off. When I saw you, I had just worked a weekend, and usually when you work a weekend, they give you the next week off because the weekend shift, you're there for 12 hours a day, 2 days.
And I'm assuming the job pays okay?
Yeah, I do pretty well.
So the reason I ask is because when you're saying you didn't really have a goal, it just seemed cool. That's, I always try to understand why people get into card counting. For me, it was like, I didn't want to go back to working evenings at Red Robin. I didn't want to go back to school. And I was just trying to find a way to, kind of fill in the gap financially. But then other people, I didn't have a good paying job. I was making, $100 or $200 a week, substitute teaching, but there's another group of people that get into it. The money's part of it, but there's this other drive. And I would say it seems like you fit into that category where you've got incredible discipline. You don't need the money, but you want to beat the game. You want to make money at it, and something else drives you. Do you have any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, if you put it in that sense, it's like I said, I play a sport every year, and it's baseball. It kind of filled in the gap from when I don't play baseball. That competitiveness, that's wanting to win, that drive to succeed. After the summer's over, it's kind of like you're just waiting for March to roll around so you can play again. And Hard County kind of filled that goal for me right there, where I wanted to go and be competitive for the rest of the year after October. So I think that's where it kind of fell in and fit into.
I totally get that. I resonate with that a lot. So can you go a little bit into the similarities between what you do kind of on Wall Street or, with trading and then card counting?
Volatility. I see a lot of market volatility, and it's the same thing as in Blackjack. You have this information. You can have all the knowledge and information in the world, but the volatility factor is still the same. People get information for trades or, whatever news outlet or whatever they read saying like this is going to happen. But, sometimes it turns on the other side, no matter how much you know. And Blackjack's kind of the same way. Even though we know we have an advantage, there's still that variance of volatility where, even though we have an advantage, we still lose. Yeah. And so I think that's kind of both sides of the house when it comes to, trading and Blackjack itself.
Which do you think has more volatility?
Oh, that's a good question. I honestly, for me, kind of think that it's equal. It's just depending on which your willingness to put your money in, right? And how much money. It's the same risk, if you're betting, or thousands of dollars, or you're investing thousands of dollars. It's whatever your risk you're willing to put up, and the volatility, I think, is about the same.
Yeah, I would think with either you have to have just an iron stomach. You can't let that volatility wear you down.
I know a lot of people are now into the cryptocurrency. It's just, the guys who were sitting there when it was at 20,000 a share saying, I'm going to hold on. And then 3 weeks later, it's at $6,000, it's just that wrenching, like I should have done this or I should have done that, and Blackjack's the kind of, I think, the same way. You have the information, and even though you put the money out, there's that chance that you could lose, $3,000 in a matter of a couple hands. So,
yep. I remember, I don't know if it was a podcast or something I read, and this was kind of when the market was recovering from the recession. And what I heard or read was that the only demographic that made money through the recession was people 60 years and older. And the reason why is because they'd been through it before, they'd seen it, and it didn't faze them. They didn't panic and sell off stocks. If anything, they bought when the market dropped. I think whatever that is, that whether it's just trusting it or whether it's that you've been through it before, there's something about not letting a drop phase you, not having a losing session or a losing streak at the casino, or with whatever investment, assuming it's a positive EV investment.
The market's funny. All the information you need to know on what you should do in the market is literally in your local newspaper or in your national syndicated newspaper. I mean, you read about what's going on in the world. You can make savvy decisions on what you should invest your money in.
That's really interesting. I'll take your word on that. So how many hours do you get to play each year, with a full-time job and with a, baseball schedule?
With the baseball schedule and my daughter, who's a loving handful, I'm still able to get between 400 and 500 hours for the year.
400 and 500.
Yeah, the equivalent
Yeah.
of 400 hours for the year.
So, what's, I mean, that's a lot. I think Tommy Highland says he tries to get 500 hours a year. And I guess you could say he's semi-retired or with his golf habit, he, has other priorities, but, you're still with a full-time job with a daughter and, the baseball schedule, you're essentially a part-timer. Can you share a little bit about your perspective being a advantage player as a part-timer?
Um, for me, playing part-time, I do things kind of differently. I have a different mentality to my approach to the game at time. It's for profit, but it's for fun as well, and it is kind of to fill my need to get in trouble every once in a while. I look at things kind of differently. I'm not really worried about getting burnt out of places or anything like that. On the part time side of it, I think it's just like it is part time. It's just one side of my life that I enjoy doing when I have free time and anything else going on.
And it continues after 10 years to fill that need or that desire.
You know what? I kind of thought after probably like year 5, after getting chased out of a couple places and seeming like, my blackjack career was over because I couldn't go here or there. But no, every year I literally play the same market and I still get 400 to 500 hours. And yeah, it still fuels that piece. It's, when baseball season's over, I'm back to playing blackjack again. And when baseball season's in the midst of it, my hours cut down a little bit, but as soon as October hits, I'm back at it. The table's hardcore. So
that's really interesting. I feel like a lot of people need to hear that you can. I know, Tommy Highland said that, other people have said you can hit the same markets over and over, but I think a lot of people don't believe it. I mean, you probably can't hit the same market every month, but if you have an annual rotation, what does it look like? Are there diminishing returns on hours after each year?
No, I get it's about the same. And I say like this, just be wise about, if you've been, on my point, if I've been kicked out somewhere, I'm just smart about it. I'm not going back there, next 2 weeks. I'll take some time off. I'll hit another market, or I might take a trip somewhere else in the country for a while and play there. But for the most part, like I come back and sometimes I get, a little bit more hours than I would expect. And sometimes I get a little less, but I still go back. I'm not afraid to go back. Or I've been trespassed. I've been walked out by stadies. I've been walked out by stadies and security. And, sometimes the guys just joke with me like, we'll see you in 45 days. Yeah, basically. So, I try to change up my look. I change up, my approach to things on how I might start out my bets, things like that. And those keep me in the running for getting more rounds / hours in that joint that I've walked out of. So
there's volatility both with the financial swings, but also market volatility, getting hours in. You said one trip you might get more hours than you're expecting, another trip less. And I think you got to have the stomach for that as well. You can't plan on how many hours you're going to get. You just have to, go for it and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I one of the recent trips I've taken, I drove an hour to this place, and I literally got 45 minutes of play before like, hey, Mr. Blah blah blah, and they walked me out the door, and then I just got in my car and drove another hour and a half to the next spot, and it's just that drive, willingness to do it, and not having being shaded because you got kicked out of somewhere that your trip should end. because the next place is going to be the same. You just keep trucking along. I think that's something for people to know, that, it's because you got walked out of one place, go to the next place. Go to as many places as you can. The only thing that's going to suffer is the mileage on your car.
Yeah. So how do you treat your bankroll as a part-time player? Do you have a dedicated Blackjack bankroll, or how's that work?
So I don't have control of my bankroll. My daughter does, because she knows where it is, and every time I have her, she plays with it. So every once in a while, I'm missing a $100 bill here.
Oh my gosh.
Not that she takes it, it's just like she plays with it, and it's just like you have to look like, oh, here's the 100 I'm missing. No, for me, I treat my bankroll like a business, like every other professional would. I kind of pay myself monthly, and then I give myself a bonus at the end of the year. And then what I'll do is, at the end of the year, I'll say, all right, well, this year, 2019, I want to start with a $60,000 bankroll, because last year maybe I started with a 40. So I allocate whatever it takes to get that number to 60, and the other side of it, I take it, I put it away. I put it away for my daughter, or I do stuff for my daughter, or I invest in some of the other investment things I have going on. So I literally treat it as a business. I try to keep myself financially strapped enough where I'll never have to dip into something else. So
yeah. Do you have money in cryptocurrency?
Unfortunately, what I do, I cannot invest in anything in the market. So.
Oh, okay. And that's considered part of the market.
Yeah. I'm allowed privileged information that person doesn't have. So unfortunately, I cannot invest in the market.
Okay. I don't have any money in cryptocurrency. I was just curious. So you use a different count than high-low, which is, what every team I've been a part of has used, and what we teach at Blackjack Apprenticeship. But we've got plenty of other members that use a different count. But why do you, what count do you use, and why?
I use the Revere point count. And like everybody in everybody's story, I didn't start out with the Revere point count, to be honest with you. Even after picking up the book, Playing Blackjack as a Business. There's 3 other counts in that book. I kind of gradually made my way to the Revere point count. And it was only because, like I said, I looked at some of the numbers between high-low and different things. And for me, I wanted something that I had to train every day to use. And the Revere point count for me made it like that. Even to this day, I probably still train myself, maybe not as often, but maybe 2 times a week. Have to stay on top of it. It's a multi-level count. I know about 70 indices from -2 to +12. So for me, that's what I wanted. The challenge of, like, playing baseball, where you have to work at it every day. I wanted something like this, where I had to work at it every day.
Oh, that's really interesting. So have you found that it gives you more time at the tables, or no?
I used to think like that, but in the beginning, but no. I mean, casino personnel, surveillance, they're watching the money. It's with any type of advantage play, it's your bet that gives you away, and what you're betting and how you're betting, that gives you away. I don't think that having one count or another is going to make you survive longer in this game. So I used to, but no.
Okay. I think that's really interesting, and that makes sense. If you're looking for, to do this for the challenge, for the competitiveness, that's a way to continually push yourself and to kind of force a higher standard than maybe is necessary. But if you're doing it just for the money, it's maybe not necessary to, clearly high-low is working for people. My
advice, and everybody I talk to, is like, treat it the same. Treat it as a business. Be serious about it. If you're going out there for fun, then use KO or something like that. But even if you're doing that, be serious about it. You're going out there and you're betting your own money. Whatever that risk entails on your side, you're still going out there and bet money. So it's always good to, whatever you're using, just be serious about it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So you've been at this 10 years and you've met, I mean, you've been to a boot camp and you've met, I don't know, at least dozens, if not more, card carriers and advantage players. From the people you've met and some of the typical ways that card counters do things, how have you found creative ways to think outside the norm?
Uh, well, I don't, you read the books and they tell you to do this. You got to go from min to max and you shouldn't play at this table and you shouldn't do that. And I've kind of, in my own perspective, and, I tell people this and I tell them the risk is what you want it to be, right? I have played at levels that kept me at 1%, and I've played at levels that kept me at, 8 or 9% risk.
Oh, wow.
But the reward out of that was I played quality games.
Mm-hmm.
As my bankroll was built. In this game, as you put that money on the felt, your risk to ruin is a roller coaster. And bet after bet, right? It's never going to stay below 1% as you play your session. I say that you go out there and you play as many teams possible, and you play with discipline to know when to walk away when you don't have an advantage, or it looks like that you have to go deeply into a shoe where you have a higher risk.
Mm-hmm.
If you $5,000 bankroll and the best game at the casino is a $50 game, I'm not saying go run to it, but don't shy from it. Give it a shot. Go in there with a plan. You might not be able to sit there through a -1, so leave. Usually games like that are no mid-shoe entries. If you leave, you can use that to your advantage because they're going to shuffle up. So and you can shoot. So take your shots. I don't think you have to follow the status quo of saying I need to keep my risk at this levels if you can find a game that's the best game in the casino. I'm not going out and blowing your whole bankroll, but I'm just saying just be smart. And there's nothing wrong with taking shots here. Yeah.
I think probably a lot of it has to do with how well you could build another bankroll. If losing your bankroll means you're never counting cards again, or it's going to be 5 years, you probably can't afford to take those shots. But if you could, take some time, save up some money, and build another bankroll, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of risk in the short term.
Yeah, I agree with you. But like I said, it's when I talk to people about my experiences, my first thing is it's whatever financially is feasible for you. That's my first message.
Yeah.
And even now, I'm saying it's whatever financial is feasible for you. If you can't afford to do that, or like you said, if losing it's going to be end all be all of your card count career, then maybe you should. But if it's not, then I say it's all right for you to take a shot here and there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree with that. So you've been playing 10 years, probably 5,000 hours, roughly, give or take. What have you learned over those years about kind of how you handle the table environment?
In these 10 years, I've learned to be in tune with myself and with the casino. Like if I'll start off with myself. If it's one of those days where you just can't get a win and you're frustrated and, your mind is elsewhere, I don't play anymore. I'll go, I'll get something to eat, I'll rest up, whatever it is. When you're feeling like that's just a tail sign for bad things to come. Yeah. You're going to forget to do things. Your mind is elsewhere. You need to be focused. With the casino, I'm more in tune on what's going on around me, who's behind me, who's to my left or right, what the pit are doing. I find that keeps me out of trouble for the most part, per se, in my session, if I can pinpoint who key people are in the pit, right? I also keep out for dealers, dealers that sit there and talk to you and try to make sly remarks about, oh, good call and stuff like that. those are the same people when they go on their break, go run and snitch on you.
Yep.
and tell that, oh, I think this guy's counting. And there's been times where I've been, gotten the tap. This guy just went on break 5 minutes ago. I've been there for 4 hours. He goes on break for 5 minutes, and 2 minutes later I get the tap. It's you just try to stay in tune about what's going on around you and with yourself and in your environment. I mean, if you have a bad feeling, leave. If you know there's another casino until 2 hours from you, well, stay until you get the tap and then just burn it out. Because if they're going to let you play for another 2 hours before they tap you, that's more rounds, that's more hours, that's more opportunity. So
the way I think about it is that there's a science to card counting and there's an art to it. And you can teach the science and you can give advice about the art, but there's a part of that art form of sensing heat, and kind of being able to gauge what's going on that I don't think anyone's ever going to be perfect at, but you talk to enough people that have played as many hours as you have, or, any of the pros at Blackjack Apprenticeship, and they've kind of built that sixth sense of heat. And yeah, we're never perfect at it. Sometimes, you think you're getting it backed off and you get another 10 hours in at that casino. And other times you think there's no heat and you get the tap, but there does seem to be this kind of awareness that you build up over time. So I think that's what you're speaking to.
Yeah, I mean, the awareness you build up, it will save you out of a lot. And like I said, it's take that awareness and if you're a newbie, write it down, make notes of it.
Yeah.
Be aware of everything. If the person in front of you just try to cash out $3,000 and they ask them for ID, make a mental note of that. Now you already have the information on this casino that you never walked into, that $3,000 is the threshold limit.
Yep.
That they're going to ask you for ID. It's simple things like that you should be in tune to when you're in the casino. You overhear somebody talking, that's information. Store that information that you have somewhere and save it, because that's helpful for you.
Absolutely. And then do us all a favor and put a comment in Casino 411 that casino has a $3,000 threshold, because, I want to know that before I go into a casino to know how much I can cash out. And the more we can share that with each other, the more we can all scratch each other's backs.
The sad part about it is I've played in the casino and ran into different advantage players and stuff like that, and kind of people who are on the newer side, and you'd be surprised that there's open talk jargon going on in the pit about certain things, and you hear it, and those same players I've seen walk the floor, and they just disregard that information. Like if I know that, okay, well, so-and-so's coming on shift, and he just got off dealing, right? But now he's just going to sit there and watch the floor while they go on break. Well, now I know this guy is totally unqualified to be behind there. He's just basically punching numbers in that little kiosk. So I have an opportunity to go as hard as I can for as long as he's out there.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised how many people just ignore information like that. You see a guy, he's got the jacket on, but look at his shirt. If he has a dealer shirt on, like, that guy's just sitting there relieving somebody. Go as hard as you can for as long as he's there. Like, he's not gonna know anything that's going on. He's just a body. And people just ignore stuff like that. You should be really in tune about what's going on in your surroundings.
That's really great advice. I hope people hear that and take note of it. So over the last 10 years, and I've been asking this question of a few people lately. I just did some interviews with some other people that have been at it for 10 to 15 years, not for the podcast, but for another project. But I just want to ask, over these last 10 years, what's changed for you?
Other than my OSN profile, a lot of things. The way I see the game has changed. My approach to the game has always evolved over the last 10 years. My bankroll has changed over the last 10 years. I find that I get more enjoyment because I know that at some point, this venture in my life is going to come to an end. And, I enjoy the people that I meet or run into and get the chance to talk blackjack with. I enjoy the trips I go on. I enjoy now having my koala, my partner in life. She goes on with me. I enjoy that she enjoys coming with me and being part of my my side hustling. So for me, what's changed in this game is I would say everything. Everything's changed. This game's changed my life. It's changed the way I think of things outside of blackjack when it comes to being savvy about things. It's changed the way I view industries and certain people in those industries. So I'm very grateful for the game of blackjack finding me at a time where I need to be found. So
that's really interesting. Thanks for sharing that. A couple technical questions that kind of popped into my brain while you're talking. What bankroll size did you start with?
My first bankroll, year 1 and 2, was my $5,000 bonus I got from work. And between years 1 and 2, yeah, I blew that.
Okay.
And then when I got to halfway through year 2, I put my other bonus into that. And then, like I said, I started to find people and get advice from different people on the forum, you being one of them. And then from there, my career kind of took off.
So do you think blowing that bankroll was mistakes you were making, or was it over betting, or?
It was everything. I was making mistakes. I for example, for some reason, I didn't have the concept of you should stand at 16 on certain things, or there was just certain things that I didn't understand. And then you look at it through software and what it was costing you every time you do those wrong things. It adds up after 1,000 hands or so. And then I was definitely overbetting. I didn't have software at the time. I was just kind of making a makeshift bet spread. So it was a combination of a lot of things. And I was playing some really crappy games too. I had some really crappy games. I think I went to the West Coast and thought I found a great game playing Super Fun 21.
Oh, wow.
I was just no clue on what game evaluation was at the time. And I just thought I had an advantage anytime I sat at the table. And so I was just, blowing money here and there, left and right.
Yeah, that I'm sure a lot of people in year 1 have been there or are there. I know I played a basically break-even game. I don't know how many hours, probably 100 hours at it, until I finally got some software where I could evaluate it and realized, between the terrible rules and the terrible deck penetration, I'm gambling here. But I didn't know any better until I did. Any advice to those year 1 people so that they can avoid the pitfalls that you and I fell into?
My advice to you is don't go into the casino until you're ready. And by that I mean practice, practice, practice. I remember I knew I was ready once I could take my daughter's Sesame Street count to 100 and turn to max and still keep the running count for 3 decks. If once I got past that, I was ready to go. There was no distraction in the world that could take me out of my game. That, and with her running around and having to get up and do something for her, and then coming back and still knowing the count, that prepared me. Put yourself in the most odd and the most uncomfortable situations possible, and once you can overcome that, you're ready to go to the casino. And then just go in there. I didn't have casino savviness and awareness when I stepped in. I thought every table was a table I had an advantage on, and I thought I could win at, and it's not the case. Go out there and look. I know people read books, and it's about finding the minimum that you can find to keep your bankroll, and that's all fine and good, but also look at the rules.
Yes.
If it's no double after split, or no surrender, or the dealer wins on 22, or whatever other and stupid rules that I've sat down and played with early in my career, like just take that into consideration. Like not every blackjack game is a people's game.
Yes. That's awesome. I actually just filmed a video. It's probably going to be out by the time this podcast comes out, but it's called basically talking about the different life skills. You need to not only learn how to play perfectly, but you have to evaluate the edge of the game and find out if you should be playing it. And then it goes into, getting in the hours and kind of the casino awareness, all that stuff. I think a lot of people shortchange themselves. I know I did too when I started out. And so I think you're giving some really sage advice. Hopefully people are going to listen to. So it's been 10 years and, close to 5,000 hours or maybe 5,000 hours. What at this point would you say success looks like for you?
Oh, success is lasting 5 hours in the casino for me right now.
Uh-huh.
That's success. I don't gauge success by what I want, right? My gauge of success is the fact that I'm still able to play in the same market and get my amounted round/hours goals in for the year. I'm successful. Anything under that, I deem a failure. I'm not looking to say, oh, I'm going to make 70,000 this year. I'm going for 100,000. Like I just really want to get my hours in for the year, and then the rest is going to be up to the blackjack gods and the math. So that's successes for me. The dollar amount was never something that was on my radar from year one. Yeah, like you said, the money's nice, but it wasn't about the money for me. It was about filling that gap in my life, and now, like I said, success is just about continuing the program I have and getting my hours in. Mm-hmm. So,
do you feel like you have an end game at this point?
Yeah, I have two. One is when Koala says that she doesn't want to come on a trip because she's tired of being kicked out of hotels with me. Two is probably when my daughter turns 16. It's whatever comes first. I think that's my end game. But until then, I'm going to be in a casino near you.
Well, let's get lunch again if you're in a casino near me. Any final words or anything like that?
A couple. Like I said, guys, if you're out there, just be savvy. You walk into the casino, use their own rules against them. I'm a big advocate of that in my career. No mixed-use entry doesn't mean it's horrible, or I can't get in. Use that to your advantage. If the casino is going to have a no mixed-use entry policy or have 5 tables open, play all 5 tables. There's been times I've gone and the count gets to a -1 and I get up, I'll leave like 2 chips on the table and we'll walk to another table. And then the lady at the pass table will shuffle up when she sees me at that table. Use that to your advantage. Bounce around. It's not going to get you caught out. You look like a gambler. Hey, attack those $25 minimum tables. Why? They always have the less people on them, even sometimes on weekends. I know a lot of people starting out like to go to the $5, $10, $15 tables, but they're pretty packed. You can go back count some $25 tables, and hey, if you have the roll and you are stable, financially stable enough to do it, go play some of those tables. Those are the better games. Those are going to be the less populated density tables where people are at. So go give them a shot. That's my advice to the new guys out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I want to say some thank yous to some people. I want to thank you, Colin. A long career. A lot of people have helped me through the way. You, Colin. I want to thank my boy P Smooth. I want to thank Stealth out in the West. Even though we had a disagreement, but he was a big part of my growth. Bubbles, Duke, Imo, Wacko Kid, Marshall, my boy Rob. I thank my koala for being my cash out partner in crime. My daughter for flipping cards to me for years. And I think think that's it.
Dude, I really appreciate that. I mean, gratitude goes a long way. It's nice to hear that after 10 years of this, you're not jaded, but you're still thankful for the game, thankful for the people you've met through it, thankful for the lessons you've learned, all that. I think that's just a really great attitude to hear when there could be a lot of jaded Advantage players or former Advantage players out there. So thanks for sharing all that.
Oh, Spartan, thank you too.
Yes.
Thank you, Spartan. Yeah, so.
That's great. Well, thanks so much for sharing your story with us and giving some really good advice for people out there. And it's been a lot of fun hearing about how you got from there to here. And I'm excited to hear where things are at in another couple of years. So thanks so much for sharing.
Thank you.